What is going on, Bulls Nation? So, I got a proposition here, and this is a crazy one to put Zach LaVine into Golden State. And why would anyone do that? So, we'll talk about it right after this.
This is your home for all things Chicago Bulls. Join the conversation. You're listening to Chicago Bulls Nation.
All right, Bulls Nation. So, you saw in the thumbnail. So I put in Zach LaVine, Alex Caruso, and Andre Drummond in exchange for CP3 and Andrew Wiggins. Sounds like a lose-lose situation for both, but just hear me out on this. It's a crazy thought process, but kind of makes sense. All right, so hear me out on this. So, why would the Golden State Warriors want an injured Zach LaVine? Well, let's be totally honest here. This injury is not as bad as we make it out to be. This is basically Zach LaVine does not want to go to Detroit Pistons. He'll be back. This is not a Lonzo Ball injury. So by the Golden State acquiring Zach LaVine, yes, they couldn't use him this season. But you know who they could use and what they really need right now is defense. So who can provide that? And they need a big man. So they can get Alex Caruso and Andre Drummond right now. They could use for their playoff push. And as a matter of fact, they could use again Alex Caruso and Drummond again next year because they're going to acquire their bird rights. So two positions that they can bolster their offense right now. You know, when they put Alex Caruso out there, he's going to be like a glove that just fits perfectly with this Golden State Warriors. And then and then you get Andre Drummond defensively rebounding would help them a lot. Now, what is the cost for that? To eat Zach LaVine's contract, which in part, if he comes back next year, which he would, it's not, it's not like a Lonzo Ball situation. They could use him also as Golden State, prepares for maybe life after Klay Thompson. Maybe they don't want to re-sign Klay Thompson. And we've seen Golden State do something like this with, D'Angelo Russell back then. They took him for a little bit and then flipped him. So at worst case scenario, if things doesn't work out, then they could go ahead and trade Zach LaVine. But in the meantime, they could use the services of Alex Caruso and Andre Drummond in return for what? Right? Like this is what they're gonna give up. Basically nothing. CP3, expiring contract. They don't really use CP3. They don't need CP3. The only reason the Warriors acquired CP3 in the first place is to get out of Jordan Poole's contract. Because Jordan Poole is not a very good player. And then Andrew Wiggins. You can make an argument that Andrew Wiggins' contract would be worse than Zach LaVine when it's all said and done. He's playing terribly. He played for one good season, I would say, on Golden State, their championship run, and then he fell off the map. And then he has a history of really not being good. When he was with Minnesota, that contract was terrible as well. So if you sum it up, like Zach LaVine has a better value than Andrew Wiggins, especially in this current iteration of the Golden State Warriors. Now, as a Bulls fan, what do you get out of this? You're asking yourself, well, Caruso's already worth a pick, and to a certain degree, 2 picks. So are we attaching now assets? Because technically you're attaching 2 picks with Zach LaVine and Drummond to get out of his contract. And the short answer is yes. Because I, as a Bulls fan, I don't know if it's healthy to be with this uncertainty of Zach LaVine again going next year. The guy does not want to be with the Bulls. And by him, yes, sure, he's not going to play this year, but you're going to have to think about him next year. It affects every salary because the Bulls are in that line now where they're teetering around being a luxury tax team. That is even if you let DeMar walk away. So with that being said, you get out of this contract, you get CP3, who's going to expire next year. He's only up to this season. You don't really need him. You can keep him around for Kobe White or something, just if you want to. And then you get Andrew Wiggins, which perhaps if you trade DeMar DeRozan can help you out. The only downside to this is Andrew Wiggins is still owed 3 years around, I think, $75 million. That is the bad part about this. His contract is a little bit better than Zach, because Zach is gonna make like 48 in year 3. I think he's making 30, so around 18 million. Pretty significant if you ask me. And in this Bulls team moving forward, I think we can use Wiggins more than Zach, because Zach is still a 6'5" shooting guard, which Kobe is. And then with Lonzo Ball coming back next year, let's say he starts, that would push Kobe as a shooting guard. So does that mean Zach is gonna play the 3? I'm not really buying that rotation. If we get Wiggins, then Wiggins can play 3. You can get Patrick Williams at 4. So that's the most passive wings ever. But at least you're not gonna have a log jam at the guard position, because once Lonzo comes back, and I can imagine Lonzo is not, it's like a one and done here. After 1 year, you're gonna trade him or just let him expire. I don't know if anyone's gonna take Lonzo Ball after that. I think he's gonna be traded because of his expiring contract. But that would give flexibility for the Bulls. Long-term contract, sure, 3 years of Wiggins, but it's not as bad as LaVine. So you have some flexibility there, and at the same time, you don't have a logjam at the guard position, because now we still have Ayo and Lonzo and Kobe, and you still got, maybe at that time we still have Javon Carter. So at least you free that up. It sucks. That would be, I would say, my last case scenario, because I don't know, I just don't like the prospect of going into next year with Zach LaVine on the team. It just doesn't give you the closure that you need. Like, is Kobe always gonna look over his shoulder because Zach is playing, even though Zach is not in the any future plans for the Bulls? I just don't want that lingering around. So if we can take a taker for him, and I think it makes sense for both teams, because if you're Golden State, let's say, who knows if Chris Paul always gets injured in the playoffs anyway, especially now with his age, he's gonna get hurt again. So it's not like, hey, I don't want to take Zach, he's not gonna play. Chris Paul's not gonna play. So you basically swap Wiggins now between Caruso and Drummond. And then the following year, like I said, if Zach plays like Zach, just a regular Zach, it doesn't need to be anything extraordinary, then he's still a valuable player right next to Klay Thompson. I mean, like right next to Steph Curry, and maybe they can let Thompson walk. Just a thought here. So let me know in the comments, is this outrageous? I'm not gonna lie, it is a little outrageous, because Zach LaVine and all that stuff, and the Bulls, what they're receiving. Because let's be honest, Wiggins is not the most attractive player right now with his contract, and his production doesn't really match, kind of like Zach, but in a lower scale. But I think the position and the length and the amount makes it a little bit worthy for the Bulls to attach. This is what we're talking about. Now the Bulls are attaching assets to get rid of Zach LaVine. Let me know in the comments what you think. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you're a Bulls fan, and I'll see you guys in the next video.